Good morning. I'm 10 miles north of Belfast and I've come up to Carrickfergus Castle. Carrickfergus Castle is the jewel in the crown of Belfast Lough. It sits proudly on the entrance to Belfast Lough, dominating the northern shoreline, and it is an amazing place. It is one of the finest preserved medieval castles anywhere about the place, certainly in the whole of Ireland. It dates from 1177 or thereabouts, built by John de Courcy, a knight, entrepreneur, adventurer. It's an amazing place. Of strategic importance, obviously, dominates the whole coastline here. Just another view of the castle from the coastal end here. And this is Carrickfergus Castle. And for once the sun is shining, and panning round again from the other side of the castle. And being a Norman castle, you would expect to find a small gate with a portcullis, high walls for defence, and you'd expect to have a keep in it as well. And it has all these features. I'm not sure whose banner this is. Maybe it's Carrickfergus's banner, maybe it's John de Courcy's banner, I just don't know. Carrickfergus, and indeed the castle, take its name after this guy here, Fergus, first king of Scotland, and he perished on the rock where the castle is now built. So the Fergus bit of Carrickfergus comes from this guy, and the basalt rock or carrig near this spot, and it is where Fergus drowned. So Carrig meaning rock, and Fergus the guy. Well, I'm standing in the portcullis, protected by a guardsman here. And that hole up there, they would have dropped all sorts of nasty stuff, boiling oil down on anybody trying to get through this gate here. And here we are at the entrance. And I'm just standing outside the murder hole here. Someone approaches a stranger, there's time, we'll wind down the portcullis and ask him his business. And then, if they don't like him, they'll pour boiling oil on him. And that's the rope mechanism for pulling up and down the gate. You can just see it through, and they're throwing all sorts of nasties down the murder hole. And that, unless I'm very much mistaken, is a raven. There you go. We're now up in the walls of the castle. And here are some of the views that you get. These cannon here are from the, I don't know, 1700s. And they've been completely restored, mind you. Now here's the view. And there's the keep. You can imagine lots of shacks and sheds where people probably lived in here. Big boat coming in there. Stout walls, thick walls. You can get through them in a hurry. And it's worth noting, looking at these cannons, they can be rotated around to fire at various angles. I would say they'd need a brave few men to lift that, mind you. But all sorts of wee nooks and crannies here. There's an archer with his crossbow and another soldier there on the lookout. Nobody was going to attack this castle without somebody spotting them. The castle keep up there. On the walls, this is one of the ramparts, and this is the kind of view that defenders of the castle would have had. Nothing would have got by this castle or its cannon. And over to the harbour area, and there's the keep again, the sun in behind it, looking out onto Belfast Lough. And at one time, I mean, I'm not too sure about numbers, but we're talking a garrison. How many would be in a garrison castle? I don't know, a couple of hundred soldiers maybe more. I just don't know. Nobody is able to tell me either. And look what I see. My goodness, away in the distance. You're never far from Samson and Goliath, even away up here at Carrickfergus. And this is John de Courcy's wife, sitting looking wistfully out over the sea. She was Lady Alfrega thinks of home, and well might you think. And this is the inner area, probably used for providing food and whatnot, or stabling horses, who knows. More information about John de Courcy. And these cannon here are amongst the oldest. I think they date from something like 1710. Early cannon, there you go. Or maybe even earlier. By 1611 the Constable Fortescue had only one gunner, and here we see him washing down a barrel. Well, he's just not there at the minute. So these are Tudor cannon, and these are the earliest cannon, probably mid 1600s anyway. And a big dog there that you wouldn't cross. And this is much as it was in days gone by. A lot of posters and whatnot up on the walls. But this is a magnificent representation of the castle. This is fantastic. Whoever did this, and that's looking down to the well. And the garrison being marching out there. With the town behind them. Excellent. What does it say? This is the Schomberg siege in 1689. There you are now. There's your cannon. And the castle is more or less as it was back in those days. It is, as I say, one of the best preserved medieval castles anywhere in Ireland. Probably the top one. And this is the castle chapel. Most castles would have had a chapel here. Old Bible stationed prominently, and a monk. Just down at the base of the keep here. This would have been used to prepare food or store food, and the bad, nasty people would have been put in the stocks. And we dining area. And here is the well. This castle had its own well, so it was never short of water. And I've just entered the servery where meals and banquets would have been held. And here's the menu. Here's the menu, my goodness. You know, these lords and ladies, didn't stint. Those who had power and influence, they did live well, but I'm afraid the peasants didn't. Feasts and fasts. A year in the life of the castle. So I'll just run down this slowly if you want to read it. You can always pause. there they're netting rabbits, and there they're milking the cows, and there they're fishing for salmon, etc. And there they're beekeeping, and there they're stuffing their faces. The servery. And the servery, I presume, was food preparation, maybe, I don't know, getting things ready, but this is the actual banqueting hall. With a big tapestry there. And the Lord and Lady banqueting hall. The gold boat was known as a neef. It was used to display salt, would you believe? Salt was an expensive commodity, and it was thought the more salt you owned, the richer you were. There you go. There's more information. Steel bread was used as plates. These were called trenchers. Garrison were jugs popular. It's a fascinating place, this. Packed with history. And there's just more on the banquet hall. If you want to read that yourself by pausing it. And tapestry on the wall there. And I'm just climbing and climbing and climbing here up to the top of the keep. And a lot of different flags, funny enough. Stout roof there. Oh dear. And oh dear, I don't know what would have been held in here. It's all about heraldry. All these shields and crests and flags. What does this say? They're talking about slingshot, and they're talking about spurs, and they're talking about handcuffs, and they're talking about crossbow bolts, and they're talking about gauntlets. And there, as ever, is the stenner coming in. So, and this is another staircase. Only this one goes round and round. And I presume this is up to the roof. And I don't think you're allowed to go up that one. So let's see if I can get myself down here. This would have been the back stairs, so to speak. Beware trip step. So if you were battling up and down, or defending this, there was a deliberate step that was out of sync. That was to knock you off. A trip step. It's not fascinating. Welcome to Carrickfergus Castle. You stand on the rock of Fergus, where swords swung and arrows flew and all that. And I've been in a very well stocked visitor centre just at the entrance inside the entrance to the castle here. This gives an idea, this wee picture here, of what things must have looked like all those years ago. So the ship's pulled up, docked there, and there's the castle on that promontory with houses in behind. This is an example of what life was like inside the keep. You had the cooking, you had socialising, eating area, you had the bedrooms for the castle hierarchy, and you'd got sort of like a throne room, and then you'd got the back stairs there. First, second and third floors, and then you had the soldiers up on top. This is the education centre, obviously, where youngsters are brought to reenact and dress up. Just examples of the chain mail here and the type of armour that the knights would have worn, and an example of the kind of weaponry, crossbow. And this is one of the wee videos operating, giving a wee bit of history. Robert the Bruce, or Edward the Bruce.
In May 1315, 6,000 men led by Edward Bruce, Robert's younger brother, landed at Lough in County Antrim. Despite ongoing bad weather, they rampaged through the province, defeating the Earl of Ulster and razing Dundalk to the ground. But one Anglo-Irish stronghold held out against the invaders. Carrickfergus Castle, with its massive towers and thick walls, proved too strong for the Scots. In September 1315, Edward put it under siege. At first, the besieged Anglo-Irish garrison was confident it could hold out against the invaders. Warm and dry, they had a storehouse full of food and a fresh water supply inside the walls. Outside, it was a different matter. As the rains continued, crops began to fail and food became scarce. By autumn, the country was in the grip of famine. Scottish supplies dried up, and they worried about the approaching winter. It was as cold and harsh as the plague. In its wake, starvation and death crept across the land. In the new year, fresh supplies improved the fortunes of the camp. Meanwhile, the Anglo-Irish still held out, trapped and uneasy, as their food slowly dwindled. In April.
So it's goodbye to Carrickfergus Castle, and it's run by the Department of Environment, or the Environment Agency, and it only cost me a fiver to get in and see all this. You know, I have been in some other places and they'd be paying 15, 16 quid. What about you, big lad? Rock on. So, come and see it for yourself.